Okay. All right. So what did we? Do you remember what we worked on last time?
Um,
What did we do?
we um, worked on my memory,
Okay. How did we do that?
like using strategies to help me memorize things.
Okay. Do you remember any of them?
Um, not really.
Okay. That's okay. That's why we're here, right? So I wanted to show you the difference between this pencil and this pencil, right? You see how this is kind of got some wood. It's kind of flat. You can't really do much with it. This one's sharpened, right? It's got a very sharp point. And what we were working on last time was kind of like this. If your mind is clouded with a lot of thoughts about the past, the future, what you're worried about doing, how you'd rather be with your lizard or your Legos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't have as much energy or attention left over for what's happening in the moment. Make sense?
Yeah.
But with this sharp pencil, you're not distracted by any of those things. You're just here, present. So one of the things that we did was we just sat in our chair, eyes closed, listening to what's happening in the room and feeling some sensation in the body. If you're paying attention to the weight of your body in the chair and listening to the sounds, it's like the mind doesn't have any room left over for anything else. You've kind of filled up your slots, like in a computer, right? You filled up all your slots with listening and feeling the sensations. Now, it's challenging if you have something you have to do or something you're resisting against. Like, so for example, for me, I'm hearing the sounds outside, which is sort of distracting my attention. Was it distracting your attention?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard, I think, in a classroom where you have a lot of other kids, right? And then, like you said, you have thoughts of things you'd rather be doing, and you came up with a phrase. Do you remember the phrase you came up with?
Um, I'm already here now. I can't be there.
That was the phrase, yeah. So if you can't be there with your lizard or your Legos, then you might as well be here.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll start with just doing the same thing again. If you can just close your eyes, put both your feet on the ground, put your hands on your legs, and just you're listening to the sound of my voice. And if any thoughts come of anything else other than the sound of my voice, the sensation of your body in the chair or your hands on your legs, just come back to those things that are happening right now. And when I stop talking, you're going to hear maybe some talking outside. You might hear that ventilation. And just keep your attention focused on either those sounds and or, so either the same time or just going to the sensations. If you do that, there shouldn't be any room left over for thoughts about where you would rather be or things that you have to do in the future or things that you did. You're just going to be here in the present. So we'll just do that for like 30 seconds. Okay. So what happened?
I kind of stayed in the same spot
Okay. What does that mean?
with the sounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were able to pay attention to the sounds in the room. Did you pay attention to the sensation in the chair or your hands on your legs? Or just the sounds?
It's the sounds.
Okay, but did your mind wander to other things?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what your mind went to?
Going back to my house.
Going back to your house. So you had a visual image of your house.
Mm.
What did you see in your house?
My kitchen.
Okay.
And um, Well, in my room.
And why do you think your mind went to your kitchen and your room?
Um, Maybe because I'm hungry.
Maybe because you're hungry. Okay. So one practical solution would be to bring snacks to school. Does this happen often where you get hungry?
Like bring snacks to school.
Yeah. Do you get hungry and the snack would be helpful for you?
Yeah, I get hungry, but
Hello. Is it okay we're using this room? Okay. No worries. Okay. That's okay. So, do you get hungry and snacks would be helpful for you?
yeah, sometimes.
Okay. So that's something you might want to make a note of. Snacks question mark. Because if you're hungry, then your attention is going to wander, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write healthy snacks because, why not healthy, right? Okay. You can take that home. So, and that's what I do all day long is I'll send myself emails or I'll jot down alarms or I'll write notes. If you have a memory that isn't serving you, which my memory doesn't serve me very well either, you got to just give yourself what we call accommodations or adaptations like notes and alarms and things like that. Okay? So your mind went to your room and it went to your kitchen. And so let's try this again. And if your mind goes to any image, you can just say the word see in your head. See. And then just by hearing that word, you then go back to the sounds in the room and the sensations. Does that make sense? Okay? And if you hear a thought in your head like, oh, I'd like to play with my Legos, you say here, because you're hearing something in your head, and you go back to what you're actually hearing. Okay? We'll add one more thing. If you see your room, your kitchen, or anything else, see if you can return your attention to the blackness behind your lids. Your eyes are closed, you just see blackness. It's not very interesting, but if you can be okay with that darkness and say, you know what, I prefer being here present in the darkness than some imaginary image of my kitchen. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You're choosing to be here instead of in your imagination there. Now, sometimes the imagination is great, but if you're trying to remember things in class, then sometimes it can get in the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So let's try it again. Let's do another 30 seconds. You've got your attention is on your weight in the chair, your hands on your legs, and the sound. If you see any images, you just say see, and you return to the darkness behind your eyelids. Okay. So what happened this time?
I went back to my room.
Okay.
Not the kitchen this time.
Okay.
I went back to my room and I said see, and then went back to the blackness.
Okay.
My eyelids, and then after I went to the sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you just did, in my opinion, is you took control of your attention. Mm-hmm. Your attention was going off to where you weren't, and you brought it back to where you were. And the idea is to do that in class whenever you can. Okay? Now, you may or may not need to close your eyes, but you can always feel the sensations of your body. And one thing that helps me also is I turn both, it's helpful with a sharp pencil, I turn both of my eyes onto the point, right? Because if your attention is wandering, one eye may be going off somewhere else, but you're just saying, I'm here right now. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right. So your teacher gave me some math stuff. Now, my specialty is not math, so we won't go too deep into this. But when you look at this, how do you feel? These formulas and equations and fractions and stuff. Emotionally, how do you feel?
Like that it's gonna be boring.
Right. Okay. Now this, and a lot of people do find this stuff boring. The challenge is that if it's boring, you're basically sending a signal to your mind, don't really pay attention to this, you know? If you're bored with it, you're going to not pay attention to it. So what we want to do, and we're not going to work on it today, but what we want to do is, and you can also do this at home, is start to think about, are there ways that this could be made more fun? Now, there are some math games out there that can make things more fun. You can use examples like that you relate to. For example, if you had 10 lizards and only 6 cages, then you would have to divide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Okay. Now, when we left the room, your teacher was talking about this exercise where you talk about good deeds. Can you tell me about that?
So it was kind of part of my homework, and we had to do a good deed.
Okay.
Like clean the like anything that's like clean rooms, or read a book to younger siblings, or wash the dishes, or
And what did you choose to do?
read a book to my littlest brother.
Your little brother. What book did you read?
The Two Spider. He wanted me to read.
Oh, okay. And how did it feel to do that?
Well, pretty good because I feel like he likes me reading to him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
So your teacher brought this up, and I thought there was some reason she brought it up in relationship to remembering. But if you already did it, you kind of remember all the details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe what we'll do in our remaining time is we'll work on this book which you brought called Life Sciences, Ecosystems. And when we worked on this last time, we worked on weather, and it was a little hard to remember the details, right?
Yeah.
So I think since you have a very active visual imagination, when I read these things, it might be helpful for you to picture them as much as possible. And we talked about the importance of taking notes. You may end up in your academic career in school taking a lot more notes than other people do, because you just can't trust your memory to remember all these things, right? And like I said, as you get on further grades, it'd be helpful to find other kids who are really good at taking notes. This could be in high school even, or in college even. But there are people who are very good at taking notes, and if you're friendly with them, they give you their notes, and then you have your notes and you have their notes, and it can help a lot. That helped me in grad school. All right, so I'm going to read you a bit, and we'll see how much you remember, okay? And if your mind wanders, just try to stay with the visual images of what I'm saying, okay? Here we go.
Wait, can I take notes?
Yeah, take notes, imagine things. We're going to try and get as much recall as you can. So it's called, this title is called Non-Living Parts Affect Living Parts. Living things can survive only where they can meet their needs. Picture your own environment. Some kinds of plants and animals survive there better than others. Right? Some things survive better than other things. Some would not survive there at all. Temperature, soil, water, air, and climate affect life in an ecosystem. So I'm going to pause for a moment when you're done writing. Now, oh, sorry, you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing that helps me when they say something general like, some would not survive there at all, it helps me to go into a specific image. So, for example, a fish would not survive on this table at all, right? Because it needs water. And so once I have a specific image, I know I'm storing it in my memory as this is just a specific example, but it represents that different animals or plants need different things, right? Mm-hmm. I might go into plants. I might think, well, some plants need shade and some need sun. So I just have a little specifics in there that help me to remember it, because if it's just general statements, your mind may just wander off, okay? I'll keep going. A desert is very dry. It has little water. It may be very hot too. Plants and animals that do well in a desert have special body structures. So again, you go into a very specific thing, like what could be a body structure that a plant and animal have? Well, maybe something like cactus, the way it's designed, or maybe a scorpion. They've got something that helps them. We don't know yet what it is, but it just helps me remember, okay, there's some structure to a plant or animal that helps me survive, and it helps it survive in a desert. You can even put yourself in it. I'm an animal or I'm a plant. How do I survive? You make it really emotional and personal, and your memory is going to be more interested. You're not going to go off to Legos and snacks and other things if you're bringing yourself into the reading. Okay? These structures help them store water and stay cool. You can picture that somehow. Just storing water and staying cool. That's what you really want to do in a desert, right? The stem of a giant saguro cactus can expand to hold water. So they gave you an example. This special plant can expand to hold water. It can store lots of water until the next time rain falls. Okay, so I just read you 2 paragraphs. Now we're going to see how much you can remember, okay? So I'm just going to ask you some questions. What was the, I'll just ask you, do you remember the point of the first paragraph, what they were saying was important in an environment?
First paragraph, what was important in the environment?
Yeah, what's important? What were they saying is important for living things in an environment?
Things that help them like survive.
Exactly. And do you remember the list of some of the things that they said that they need to survive?
Other animals.
Okay, that wasn't there, but that's true. But what did they say are really important? Because the whole title of this thing is non-living parts affect living parts. So they're interested in the non-living things that are affecting living things. So in your environment, what is important for different animals or plants? So think of our example. What's the example that I said that popped in my mind? I had 2 examples. Do you remember them?
No.
Okay, so the first one I said is fish.
Oh yeah, fish.
Yeah, what do fish need?
Water.
Exactly, right? So boom, some animals need water. Maybe they're not fish, maybe they're just, well, everyone needs water, right? In different amounts. And then the other one, I came up with a second one. Do you remember the second one I had?
No.
Okay, the second one was some plants need shade and some need sun, right?
Oh, okay.
Do you remember me saying that at all?
Oh no, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever someone's talking, especially with science, whenever they're talking general stuff, you want to help yourself get really specific. Put yourself there as the animal or the plant, or that you're taking care of them, and then boom, suddenly you have an emotional connection to keeping this animal or plant alive, like your lizard, right? And boom, you'd remember temperature, soil, water, air, light, and climate affect life. That was kind of what their point was, right?
Yeah.
And what they love to do on tests, from the grade you're in now till grad school, is they have a list of things. You may not have to remember everything on the list, but you want to remember as many things as possible. Okay? Now, one of the tricks that I used to get through grad school was that I would come up with acronyms, right? So when it was a list of things, I would see, okay, so it's temperature, soil, water, air, light, and climate. Okay? So then I would write T for temperature, S for soil, W for water, A for air, L for light, and C for climate. Now that's hard to remember. That's not a word, right? But what if we rearrange it a little bit? So you could do SWAT LC, right? You just rearrange the order of it, right? So then you go into the test, and all you're remembering is SWAT LC, and you're remembering what each of these letters stand for, okay? You can hold a lot more in your brain, at least I can, maybe it works for you, if you just remember the acronym and what the acronym stands for, okay? And then what I would do is I'd go into the test, if it was a test that had scratch paper or a place for me to write down, I'd write down all my acronyms, right? And then I'd remember what those acronyms were, or I had practiced it enough times that I knew I'd be able to do it. And then when it came to a question on the test, if I didn't know the answer to it, but it was looking for multiple choice and it had some of those words like air and light, I'd be like, okay, well, does it fit my acronym? Because if they threw something in here like cosmic rays or I don't know, lamppost or something, then I'd be like, okay, well, it's not in my acronym, so probably it's not the right answer. Do you see that trick, what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Acronym means basically you just choose the first letter of each thing and you make up a word, okay? And sometimes you could even make up another sentence. Like, for example, to remember all the nerves in the body, there's an old phrase that doctors use, which is, the touch and feel a very good velvet. And so this is all the nerves. They all start with these letters. Like that's, I forgot now, oculomotor, trigeminal, facial, vagus. I remember some of them still, but not all of them. But anyway, that's how they would do it. They'd remember these expressions. That's a very long one. It's hard to remember that. But if it's a sentence, then you can remember it. Okay, does that make sense? And like, so for like the planets, they go, my very excellent mother just, I forgot, but that's Mars, Venus, Earth. No, wait, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter. When you use two of the same letters, it can get a little tricky. But anyway, that's how people remember a lot of things that they can't remember. They just make these acronyms, okay? So we have only 2 minutes left. We'll end with a meditation, and we'll see if you can remember this acronym, SWOT-LC, and that it stands for soil, water, air, temperature, light, and climate. Okay? So you just want to remember that SWOT-LC. And you're not holding, you're just going to go into the present moment, but you're saying to your memory, I want to remember this, and I want to remember what it stands for. Soil, water, air, temperature, light, and climate. Okay? SWOT-LC. Here we go. Okay. What is the acronym?
SWOT-LC.
Excellent. What does it stand for?
Soil, water, air, temperature, light, climate.
You did it. You see? What you just proved is that you can memorize things. You have that capacity. I think the main thing, as we've talked about before, is that your mind is just not, it looks at these math formulas, it's not interested, so it wanders off, right? But if your goal is to be a dentist, this stuff's going to help you get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for me?
No.
Okay. So I recorded this for my own memory, but would it be okay if I shared this with your mom, what we talked about?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask you that every time because I don't want to share anything without your permission, but I think it's helpful for her. And what I'd like you to work on at home, and if she listens to this, maybe she'll remember it too, is just that practice, like 30 seconds a few times a day. Just sit in your chair, close your eyes, listen to the sounds, feel the sensations. If your image goes somewhere else, you say see, and you go to the darkness behind your eyelids. That'll train your mind to begin to become present. You'll become like the sharp pencil point.